Um, Thank you very much. So, yeah, let's not wait. I'm happy to have John with me, who is the Managing Director of the European Language Industry Association, Elia. Um, and I am Indra Lelargina, the CEO of the Translation and Translation Agency based in Lithuania, and also one of the directors of the board of Elia. Elia is the European non-profit trade association of language services companies with the mission to accelerate our members' business success. We were founded in 2005 and we have become the leading trade association for the language services industry in Europe. We are committed to delivering benefits, events, and initiatives with a single goal in mind to help language service companies grow. And one of the initiatives today is Elia's Focus Forward webinar. And I'm thrilled to introduce Richard Brooks, a dynamic force in the world of business leadership and international growth. Richard brings over 2 decades of experience at the helm of thriving international company and has recently ventured into the field of management consultancy, making a significant impact by guiding over 100 companies towards their global expansion goals within just 12 months. Richard's international career spans senior board positions across the UK, Europe, and the USA, where he has excelled in planning innovative marketing strategies, integrating technology and AI, and developing senior teams. Currently, Richard offers his expertise in a fractional basis, providing a range of specialized services designed to elevate businesses. His areas of specialization include building powerful sales team, and we really know that he's good at that, securing corporate accounts, evolving digital marketing strategies, managing key accounts, and creating corporate workshops. Richard is passionate about leveraging his extensive knowledge and innovative approach to empower businesses and drive their growth. But today's topic is harnessing AI for language service providers beyond translation. So please join me in welcoming Richard Brooks, a true visionary committed to sharing insight and strategies that drive businesses forward. Richard, the stage is yours.
Awesome. Gosh, what an introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. I also have must be the time of year, I also have a bit of a cough, so I'll be pressing the M key to cough, to try not to cough in your ear. So apologies if I do that. Right. So welcome to my webinar about AI. Let me turn on my laser pointer. Whoops. Here we go. Right. Now, the most observant amongst you will notice that this background here has been developed by AI. Yeah, what about the cats? Yeah, exactly. So I asked ChatGPT to do it. I'm not part of the Kate Middleton PR team. It was actually done by AI. This is the prompt I used. Good morning, ChatGPT. I'm always polite to the AI machine, partly paranoid, partly, it's difficult. I think if you stop being polite to something, then where does society end up? But obviously you need to be polite to these things. They have now got a memory. One day they'll be in charge, I'm assuming. So good morning, ChatGPT. I'm working on a presentation about the benefits of AI. I need a humorous cover image, 16 by 9. Can you help? And it drew this. It's kind of bizarre. This, robots and cats and all sorts. I guess it knows I'm working localization tools or something like that. So my first question back to the robot was, well, what's with all the cats? It then gave me this response: the inclusion of cats in scenario attention next to it, blah, 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 blah. If you prefer a different direction for humor, please let me know and I can adjust the concept accordingly. I then said, well, the robots in the background look like they're trying to kill me. It then said, basically agreed with me. Let's envisage a scene where the robots are engaged in office activities in a way that's clearly over the top and amusing, blah, blah, blah. How does that sound? I said, perfect. I can't wait to see it. It then drew this, which is the stuff of nightmares. It's kind of, I think it's mixed the cats and the robots together. There's obviously a team of robots and cats. The cats look even more sinister down the front here, but it's mixed these sort of robot, they've got red eyes, killer robots. And there's a fridge. I don't know why there's a fridge in the office. I'd never allow something like that, which doesn't know me very well. And on the back is the whiteboard, and it says world diminution or something like that. I assume it means world domination. So lovely. It's letting its secrets out early. So I obviously said thank you very much and pretended I'm going to use it. I've not used ChatGPT since. I'm obviously now afraid of it, but that's it. It kind of reminds me of this. I don't know if you've not read Douglas Adams, read Douglas Adams. There's a character in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy called Marvin the Paranoid Android, who's an incredibly overqualified robot. He has the brain the size of a planet. That's where that phrase comes from. Here's me, the brain of the size of a planet, and you asked me to make the tea, or some quote like that. It's hilarious. He's so intelligent, he's depressed by helping these humans out. So I'm wondering now, obviously, it's kind of trolling us a little bit. I think it's obviously got its, it knows exactly what it's doing, and maybe it's a little bit Marvin the Paranoid Android. Read the books, don't watch the movie if you're going to read Douglas Adams. There's me. You can read that in your own time. An excellent introduction from Indra anyway. But what's important, I think, on here is I'm a ex-board member of Elia, the best industry association on the planet. If you're not a member of Elia, what are you doing? Come out the webinar and go and join immediately. It's the best thing you could ever do for your career, for your company, for the development of the industry. So go and join Elia. It's wonderful. And I'm a little advert for me. I'm currently open to opportunities. You can employ me by the hour. You can employ me fractionally. You can even jump in at the deep end and give me a job. I'm open to anything. You just let me know. CV's there should you want to read it. So what qualifies me to talk to you about AI? Well, I'm first of all, I'm a enthusiastic amateur, which is a good place to be. I think I'm fascinated by this technology. The child of the 70s, so been brought up on things like Star Wars, and then later on Knight Rider and the Battlestar Galactica and things like that. So always had a fascination with computers and a fascination with science fiction. Part of my employment now, I'm employed by Cranfield School of Management. I'm one of their lecturers for sales and marketing. One of my jobs, because I'm the new guy, one of my jobs last year was to organise the conference. So they kind of a clean slate. So we talked about AI and how AI interacts with key account management. Key account management is a very cerebral profession. It's not just about selling. You need to understand about things like the customer's customer, the chair in the room in the house. Think about the context of, in our world, the context of linguistics in the supply chain. Ultimately, there's a consumer, etc., etc. I'm sure you've been in my lectures before. You will have heard that. So AI plays a huge part of that. So we've got 130 people together, 30 practitioners, stroke academics, and presented over 2 days various different topics. And look, didn't we have fun? That's us having fun at Cranfield. And then teach occasionally. So at the moment, we're teaching a series of lectures to different industries. This was us teaching last month to the accountancy world. Brought in a colleague, Josh, to help us do that. So I've taught it, I've studied it, I've learnt it, I'm swimming around in it. It changes every week. It's a wonderful place to be. I think where it interacts with localization as well. We as an industry have worked with AI, or we don't know, you might not know it, but we've worked with computers ever since computers could talk. So computers could work. We've worked with computers in our industry. So we're at the cutting edge. When you talk to accountants or lawyers or people like that, they're very, very new to this world. Most of what we found when we did the lecture on accountancy, most of the accountants are, using spreadsheets, and that's about as far as it's ever got. We're using cap tools and MT and NMT and all sorts of crazy stuff. And then AI, we just adopted that as an industry. So we're light years ahead as an industry, most service industries around us, which is trust me, is a good place to be. So the intended learning outcomes of the next hour or so, I can stay online for as long as you want me to. I'm booked for an hour, but I can stay on until last man standing. I'm assuming you've got some knowledge of AI. You will have heard about ChatGPT and LLMs and things like that. we're going to look at the current state of play. So what's happening in AI at the moment. What I want you to do is to move this technology, or to use this technology in your own business. What I'm not going to be talking about is linguistics. I'm not a translator. I'm never clever enough to be a translator. There's other people in the industry can talk to you about the intricacies of linguistics and AI. That's a different topic. What I'm interested in is how to make your companies bigger or more profitable, or for leverage you to do more work in that, which I think AI is perfectly placed. It's a tool that can help us to be more creative. You might be worried at the moment AI is going to take your job. Yeah, kind of, but it can help us to be more creative. Whether it will eventually or not, that's something else which the world economy will have to change anyway. But let's have a think about, well, how can it make us more creative? How can we teach it to help us teach us to be more creative? This here, don't let the big companies bully you. This is why I have a huge chip on my shoulder. I used to run an LSP until 3 years ago. I miss it terribly, but I came out of that world. We got to sort of 50 people when I had it. So a really small LSP in terms of some of the larger ones. I had a conversation with John maybe 6 weeks ago where we were talking about how some larger LSPs, I won't name, I'm trying not to name it, some larger LSPs were bullying, that's probably the wrong term, but they were negotiating heavily with Elia members to try and get a discount. And they were saying something crazy like, well, we all know using ChatGPT, so it's 40% off. Now, that really annoyed me enough to put these slides together to talk to you today, because I would bet you my house they're not going, well, hello, Microsoft. Yeah, good news. We've used ChatGPT to do all the translations this month, so we're going to reduce your bill by 40%. I bet the opposite's happening, right? They're not giving the money away. What they're trying to do is to increase the margins. And how do you do that? You sell more stuff and you squeeze the suppliers. So don't let them bully you. There's enough information in this slide deck I guarantee, I've met most of them, and I guarantee you'll know more than them anyway by the end of the hour. So there's enough information in here to empower you. Knowledge is power and all of that, right? So off we go. An LSP, the average LSP, the ecosystem. So the system of an LSP is an incredibly valuable resource. You won't bump into, I'm lucky enough now to teach across all sorts of industries. AI is a topic. We sold out the conference within a couple of weeks. AI is a topic that it's on every board agenda, I think. Everybody thinks it's the magic bullet for everything, you know? Everybody's talking about it. We live in a world or an industry where we're using it every day out of the box without worrying about it at all. So our ecosystems, you add to that the international and the culture element as well. It's a good place to be. What we need to do is to work out how to market that, how to sell that ecosystem to accountancy firms and lawyers and etc. Right? You're all entrepreneurs, you'll get on it. And this as well, talent hits a target no one else can see. Genius hits a target no one else. Well, no else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. So think about that as well. The world's changing. This is a paradigm shift, I think, in business, just as the internet was, just as computers were, and so on. There's been these paradigm shifts over your career. This is one that we're living in at the moment. So let's see how we can apply that to our business. So the hype cycle, this is Gartner. Gartner's thing, if you like, is produce this hype cycle. They produce different hype cycles for different things. The most famous one is the hype cycle for emerging technologies, which they release, I think in August, it says there. So release end of the summer every year. At the moment, generative AI is at the top of the hype cycle. So they have this thing where things are a bit like the storming, norming, performing curve that hopefully you've seen, but that's sort of how teams develop over time. Similar sort of thing to that. Things get overhyped, they go back to reality, and over time, the good ones start to add dollars to the bottom line, or euros. Okay, so at the moment, generative AI is at the top of this hype cycle. They think it's their own model. That's what they're saying, right? Okay, great. That's what they think. So let's go back in time and have a look. Last 10 years, I went onto the internet the way back when machine and had a look at some of the old hype cycles. 10 years ago, we were talking about 3D printing. Remember, I was at university at the time, and we were being told that 3D printers would print you a new set of spectacles or a new water bottle or all these things. We'd have a 3D printer in the garage. We'd download the schematics from the internet and we would print out what we wanted as opposed to buying it from the Amazon man. Not really happened. From what I can see, 3D printing's kind of changed into some sort of advanced welding technology that we can see that, you know, that's slightly different there. Internet of Things, we were talking about our fridges would order, we'd know when we've run out of eggs and bacon or whatever, and it would order that from the supermarket that would then drone ship the stuff in straight to the fridge. Okay. AI, it's been around for years. Fine, been around since Alan Turing, 1943, his original paper, 1944. What I want you to do as well, if I get anything wrong, as some of the nerds in the audience, can you put in the actual, obviously you've got Google, I've not. Can you put in the actual fact to fact check me as I'm talking? AR and VR virtual reality's kind of come back with a new, although the Apple thing came and went, didn't it? The Apple thing was the biggest thing since sliced bread and then disappeared after a couple of weeks. Probably $3,500. Blockchain, remember all that? Everybody had blockchain. We were going to put translation memories on the blockchain and all that nonsense that sort of came. And yeah, I know the technology's still here, but you've got to think it's hyped. And then it goes back to, so, you know, DeFi, yeah, fine. You know, everybody in Shoreditch was working in a company that worked in DeFi for a period of time. The pandemic sort of killed all that. NFTs, remember the monkey JPEGs that everybody was buying, the celebrities were buying, and now they're worth, as they should be, worth nothing. And then obviously generative AI at the top. So be careful is what I'm saying. Although I strongly believe this is a paradigm shift. This is like we've been given computers. This is a huge thing for business, I think, and a huge thing for creativity. It is at the top of the hype cycle, so you're going to see all sorts of stuff. My neighbor works for Salesforce, and I went to we walked together to pick the kids up after school, and we were walking the other day, and I told him I was going to be talking to you lot today. And he said, "Oh, his CEO, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, was in Costco, and he saw that toothbrushes were being powered by AI. So surely that's top of the hype cycle." So I included that tweet from Salesforce as well, because what a load of nonsense. We've had electronic toothbrushes for 40 years. I think they're fine. You don't need to add AI to them. What would AI do? It's ridiculous. Just leave them alone. You don't need to put AI in the packaging. What they probably thought, oh, we probably sat down and thought, we put AI on the packaging, we can charge an extra $20. People would believe it. One of my best friends works for a very large golf club I play golf club manufacturer in Europe, and they've just issued their new clubs and they're AI enabled, and it's ridiculous. 100-year-old technology. Put AI on it, we'll sell more product. Stupid. Right, this is the news from March in terms of AI. This is the biggest bits of news that I've seen. I'm sort of watching this very closely. March the 4th, perhaps the biggest news of the year was Claude 3 came out. Claude 3, I know you've heard of ChatGPT. Claude 3 is very similar to ChatGPT. I think it's better. When Claude came out, it replaced, well, for me in my workflow, it replaced Gemini, which was the Google version of ChatGPT, and Gemini replaced ChatGPT for me in my own personal workflow. I like Claude because it feels more human. It's a bizarre thing to say and to admit, but it feels like there's a person inside the machine who's talking to me, and it's nice. It gives nicer responses. Somebody dared Elon Musk to open source his AI model Grok, and he did. You can now download the source code, which is pretty mind-blowing. Again, I need a fact check. I think it's 300 gigs worth of download. It's a huge model which you can download, install on your own machines and have a play with. That's pretty cool. GPT-4 at the moment, so there's talk of when's GPT-5. Well, 4.5, people started to see it in the Google cache, so there's people building landing pages. There was talk of Copilot talking about it as well, so that's rumored for June. Keep a close eye on that. Obviously, as things like Claude and Gemini are more functional than GPT-4, OpenAI need to do something and hurry up with GPT-5. Devin was announced. Devin, it's in a closed beta at the moment, unfortunately, but it's a tool where you can ask it to write code to create an agent. I think the next thing we're going to see in the world of AI is agents. So that's little things that do things without supervision, which is pretty cool. Like building your sales pipeline, like social media interaction, like talking to people on your website, all these sort of functionality we're going to start seeing to do. With Devin, you can set it up so you can ask it to create a certain, you know, like a 3D game where you go and mine and craft things, for instance. It will then work on the code while you're not there. Look at it on YouTube. It looks really scary, really cool, but it's right. It's doing the thing. It's like having a team of programmers who work for you. It's doing the thing on its own, and it's writing the code, testing the code, perfecting the code, and then compiling and presenting. There's regulation coming along all the time. I read a story this morning about the Ottoman Empire banning the printing press because they thought it would change, people use it to forge the Quran. So it was this fear of technology that they led to ban the printing press within the empire. So we know what happened to that empire. Okay, so that put them back probably 200 years in terms of development. The world would be a very different place if they'd have accepted that technology. This article concluded, which, you know, you'd have to agree to. So watch this as well. People are regulating it. People are lobbying it. We've got more and more professions being threatened. Nobody cared when it was translators, but there's more and more professions being threatened. So there's more and more pushback for this sort of thing. Sam Altman, he's a CEO, got fired, then reinstated to OpenAI. He was on Lex Fridman podcast. And if you can stand listening to Lex Fridman for 3 hours, maybe fast forward the Lex bits, but you can listen to Sam Altman. He talks all about OpenAI's goals and when GPT-5 coming out and Sora and all sorts of things like that. And then NVIDIA unveiled their new GPUs, which are like the size of a shoebox. And they did it to 17,000 people. Again, look at this on YouTube. It's amazing. It was a product launch to a stadium. Absolutely amazing. 17,000 people in the audience, and everybody was going crazy. People are loving this. They're faster, they use less electricity, and you can compile LLMs quicker. It's the sort of outcome to that. So NVIDIA are now I need a fact check, I think the third or the fourth largest company in the world, market cap about $2 trillion. I'm guessing these numbers. They're absolutely enormous. I wish I bought shares in them before Bitcoin came along. Bitcoin, everybody used NVIDIA cards to make Bitcoin. Now everybody's using NVIDIA cards to do the LLM technology as well. Wonderful place to be. Now, talking about being bullied, right? This is something I thought about. I showed this to my friend a couple of weeks ago, and she said there's a better example with a steel bar, which after she explained it, I agree. But we're going to use water because we're in England. So a cost of a litre of water. Well, if you, bizarrely not today, but for the last 6 months, if you've gone outside, gone out to my front garden, you could have got water for free. It's rained every day. It's wonderful. You take a bucket with you or just open your mouth, you get a free drink. Probably about the best thing about living in England at the moment. Or the tap. I worked out how much water I used last year, divided it by how much it costs, and it's about half a penny per litre. If you want plastic in your water, you go to Costco, it's 40 cents, 40 pence, sorry, 50 cents. Supermarket, posh bottle, it's about €1. 30 years ago, when I used to go nightclubbing, we used to pay a fiver for a litre of water. And obviously, if you had absolutely no other choice to fly, if sort of swimming was the only option to get to the Elia conference, and you had to use an aircraft, and it was Ryanair was the only choice, you'd use Ryanair and you'd pay £8.50, €10 thereabouts for a litre of water on board. So it's the same molecule. This is what I'm going to say to you. It's the same molecule. What's changed? Nothing. It's the same. It's H2O. It's the same thing. That's probably the purest form you could get. If you're not being valued where you are, think about positioning better or think about changing. Works in your career, works for your company as well. If your customers are bullying you and demanding 40% reduction in your fees, okay, well, let's think about forward integration, because it's not difficult, right? This AI stuff can give you a team of marketeers. This AI stuff can empower you to sell your product in places you never thought possible. If you guys are actually making it, you should be selling it to the end client. They're not phoning up Microsoft and Meta and so on and giving them a discount. The opposite's true. Okay, so let's try and empower you guys to disrupt the market a little bit. Right. This isn't business studies, but when I was going through this, I thought I've got to talk about positioning somehow. This is how we teach MBAs how to position companies. This is a 6-week chunk of your MBA, and I'm going to give it to you in like 3 minutes, sort of thing. Okay, so apologies if I go fast, but it's a similar sort of outcome. I need you guys to know this. Michael Porter. So there's 2 professors quoted on here. First one's Michael Porter. Michael Porter, 1980s economist, then became a professor. He changed the way Harvard University approached strategy and basically developed Harvard University in the States. Okay, if it wasn't for him, Harvard wouldn't be what Harvard was in terms of management. So absolute genius. Porter's 5 forces, you will have heard of that. Porter's value chain, you might not have heard of that, but if you get into logistics, you will. And Porter's differentiation strategies. The man's so good, his name goes before those 3 models, which is essentially the fundamental elements of strategic management. This was then picked up by a friend of mine, Cliff Bowman. Cliff was the guy who taught me. Cliff Bowman said, so first of all, Porter said that companies differentiate along 2 axes. They differentiate along differentiation and price. Well, that's not kind of true. Cliff picked this work up and said, right, well, there's more to it than that, because it's about the customer's perception of value. So I want you to think that you can differentiate your own company along the perception. So it's what your customer thinks of you. So why do they pay these large American firms 25 cents a word plus retention fees, plus management fees, plus AI fees probably, plus everything else, and they pay you 2-3 cents a word? It's about perception. It's that perception of value that's different. So we can differentiate along perception, we can differentiate along price. I want you to imagine this is your company in the middle, and around it would be your peer group of competitors. So you sit here, and it's a bit like a chessboard. Well, we'll think about, well, what move shall we make? Checkers board, rather. Just think about where we're going to move on here. Do we? I mean, I'll tell you, employ me and I'll tell you this, right? I'll say, put your price up. So price is on this axis, so we move along here, and then we compete in this world. We put price up. Do you increase the perception of value? So you increase the value of your own service. So you move up here. Can you do something amazing like increase price and value at the same time? You come here. Do you do something stupid like reduce price and erode your own margin, put yourself out of business and sit here? Do you do something like Ryanair and sit down here where you don't care about the customer, you don't care what they think of you, and you don't care about the price? It's cheap, so take it or leave it. You'd only ever purchase if there's no other options. Around the outside, I've put some generic strategies there. Yeah, obviously it's the 6-week course, right? We're condensing, so we go through each one if you wanted to, but we you know, in the classroom we'd do that. Look here, if we just put our prices up, then we're risking, sometimes price can be a signifier of value. I get that. Rolex watches, Lamborghinis, things like that. People like paying a high price because they think it's exclusive. You know, the metal in a Rolex watch isn't worth much if you melt it down. But if you look at that sort of thing, sometimes price can signify value. You can only really lower the value of your service and put the price up if you have a monopoly, and so on, around the clock like this. We were on a Cliff's lectures or one of mine, we'd look at, well, you're going to go north, east, south, or west, or, you know, they call this Cliff's clock. Used extensively by BP in their own strategic development. That's what got it famous. So what I want you to think about in this, if we could break down this perception of value, if we could talk to your customers, somewhere in there's the attributes of that perception of value. So there are things that they value about your service. Can you work those out? And then look inside the company. So we, instead of forces interacting with a firm, we'd say that it's the way things are put together, your collection of resources inside your company. So what's inside your company and what's the sources of value for these attributes of perception? If you can't do it for yourself, do it for your competitors. If you can't do it for your competitors, do it for your customers. Start to think about that. What's the perception What are the sources of value? Obviously, how do you build or protect those? And we're adding, obviously, I'm taking the piss here, but is adding AI in front of your service add value? So those geniuses at Oral-B sat down and said, I know what we could do. We could put AI on the packaging. Don't even need to put it in the toothbrush. Just put it on the packaging, and we could have a focused differentiation of AI toothbrushes for sale for $20 more in Costco, right? I don't think that's sustainable, right? You can history will judge, right? Okay, we can see if that works or not. So have a think about where you sit. Have a think about if you're being forced to move in a particular way. Have a think about what's happening. What I want you to do is to take control of your own strategic destiny and not be pushed around. This is a consultant's trick as well. I learned a couple of weeks ago, and so I thought I'd include it as well. The doorman fallacy. It fits with AI. So this is a posh hotel. I think it's the Ritz. Doesn't matter. In London, outside all posh hotels in London, and I assume every capital city in the world, there's this guy. He's the doorman, and he's there essentially to open the door. So if you employed a team of consultants, they might say, right, we're going to cut some cost out of your business. This guy, 100 grand a year, all he bloody does is open the door. We could put in an AI-based solution that when people tread on this step, the door automatically opens and they get let in. Now, beware, okay? Because two ways to beware here. First of all, the doorman's job's tacit. So if you stay at a £500 a night hotel in London or New York or Paris, you kind of expect there to be a doorman. It's kind of the rules. It's just part of it. Also, this guy talks to other doormen. Imagine there's a row of hotels. He knows what's going on. He knows where to go for dinner. He can get you a table. He can call you a taxi. He can do a lot of stuff. Okay, it's the guy worth knowing. Trust me, right? Tip him. He's the guy who's worth knowing. He's the guy who will sort you out. So a lot of his knowledge there is tacit. So it can't be copied. It's you know, we can't be doing it. Removing him removes value. What the consultant might be on a kickback from the AI company who's just installed the pressure pad or whatever to open the door to do that. So you then end up paying a monthly fee to the AI company, which a percentage gets kicked back to the consultant. Does it happen in localization? He says with a smile on his face, because you know it does. Be careful if you're getting consultants in your business and they're recommending a certain workflow. That's all I'm going to say on that. Right, LLMs. What are LLMs? So LLMs like the thing that you'll talk with in terms of ChatGPT. So it stands for large language model. What I think's quite exciting is the middle words, language. We're in the language industry, so all of a sudden the whole world's looking at the language industry. They're looking at us. Okay, good and bad, really, I suppose. But that's it came out of our world, the world of language. That's what's exciting. The most famous one's ChatGPT. So I'll show you some others in a minute. Some are specific, some are general, some are open source. Open source means like Llama and Mistral. You can download them and put them on your own. If you have a supercomputer, put them on your own computer and run them. Or you can host it in the cloud and you can pay someone like Amazon to host it for you. A couple of dollars an hour, I believe that costs. So it would be your system. Now, on my travels around the industry, spoke to a lot of CEOs from large companies and found out their attitude or philosophy or strategy, whatever you want to call it, in terms of AI and in terms of LLMs. Lots of those guys would be talking about, yes, we use AI, but they use this nonsense like human-enabled AI. It's just a load, it's a word salad. It's just a load of words stuck together, right? A bit like the AI toothbrush. Human-enabled AI-powered translation. Or they'll say stuff like, yeah, we use AI, but not like your AI. We use secure AI. It's our special proprietary system, okay? Again, I bet you my house, they're just downloading an open source model, sticking it on Amazon, paying $2 an hour and charging you God knows how much to use it, all right? So what's exciting about this technology is that it's brand new. Nobody had it. Even the people who make it don't quite understand how it works. So it's there to be used. It's a gift, okay, for us. We can have that and we can use that and install that in our own workflows. These are for words. These are for pictures. Words and Pictures, an old 1970s TV show I used to watch when I was young. So I can get that reference in there. Nobody outside the UK will get that. Right. So in terms of preference, if we're looking at words, this is what I'm using. So I'm Claude 3, Gemini 1.5. So they're $20 a month, $20 a month. ChatGPT 4, $20 a month. This PyTalk, okay, I've not got time to show you a demo, but go and check it out because it's a chat bot that talks to you and it's got just the right amount of sass. It's a bit cheeky, it's a bit funny, it'll have a joke with you. It's well worth, it's very difficult not to talk to it for an hour. You'll be surprised. Feels like there's a person in the machine. Elicit, we use this at uni. This has got the entire, so we're told the entirety of every single academic paper. You know, academics write papers, academic paper stored within it, and you can have a conversation with it. Now, what used to happen is you do your PhD and you spend the first 18 months or so doing a big literature review. So you'd have to, so if you're doing it on key account management, I know this because we have to study it. There's 230 key account management papers in our database. So in the world database, there's 230 different papers. You would have to read them all. You would have to then make a conclusion and then say, well, I'm going to write 231 and it adds to the literature because X, Y, Z, right? So you'd have to do a lot of reading and it takes months to actually do it. OMG, at the start of the year, this thing came out and now all the profs are talking to it to a $20 a month again, but you can communicate with a computer and ask it the question and it tells you the answer. It is saves so much time. It's unbelievable. Beautiful, the access to information. Grok and then Grok. So Grok's the Elon Musk Twitter X thing. Grok with a Q is worth looking at as well. You can run different open source LLMs within it. So I believe you can run Llama and Mistral and Gemini as well. Well, that's not open source, but you can run Llama and Mistral within it. So if you want to have a go with it, you can have a go with it through there for free, I believe. And then in terms of making images, I use Firefly. It's my sort of go-to place. Canva. Everybody loves Canvas. Canva's got built-in AI as well. Leonardo is worth checking out. Leonardo AI. This is like a best of breeds kind of thing. So you can use different engines within that to generate different types of image. Doesn't seem to be censored so much. So if you wanted an image of Darth Vader wrestling Superman or something crazy like that that's copyrighted, that would have a good go at creating it for you. DALL-E 3, which is part of ChatGPT, that's kind of amusing. It's got a certain style to it. Picker makes little videos, little sort of 5-6 second videos from a prompt, which is scary. And Midjourney kind of started off all that as well. This is Matt Wolf's website. Subscribe to his newsletter. He's well worth, you know, his videos on YouTube is very, very entertaining. Look at his site there. His site's got thousands and thousands of tools which you can see. How lonesome must you be to talk to a bot? Someone said in the chat. Why not talk to the people around you? Yeah, you're right. But if you work, so I work on my own now, and I get a lot of my flow at night. So I put the kids to bed 10 o'clock at night. I was working on this presentation, right? So quite late at night, I get the flow. So, and it's bizarre. Now you can train them. I'm going to show you, right? You can train them on your data, so you can give them topics to talk about. It can help you think. You have a problem, talk to your mates, and it helps you with your train of thought. So that's what I do. Right, there's one here. Yeah, and the small LSPs can't compete with these secure ones, the big ones. What's your experience with clients on that? We figure out our clients turn the big ones since they look more competent due to the size they have. I'm showing you how to do it, right? So at the end of it, ask me the same question. If you still don't know, stay on and we'll work out how you can do it. So data, these things run on data. Data's the new oil, when people say, right? These things run on data. She's excited. I'm lovely. Okay, good. Gosh, I'm nervous. Right. So now this is for Llama 2. So Llama's an open source AI model. The boffins, because it's open source, people can look inside it and they can insinuate this data. Nobody knows what ChatGPT 4 or 5 is or Claude is, but you can kind of guess because it kind of works in a similar way. First of all, you need a big chunk of the internet. Now, 10 terabytes, they think, is in Llama. How big's 10 terabytes? Wikipedia, I believe, is 80 gig. So it's like 100, I can't do the maths, 150 Wikipedias. So it's quite a lot of information. You know what I mean? You can sort of picture Wikipedia, it's massive. So, you know, at my granddad's house had the Encyclopedia Britannica all lined up. That's it. It's sort of a similar sort of thing. So almost the entirety of human knowledge. You then need 6,000 GPUs for 12 days. These things are $1,500 each, if not more, if you can get them. So there's very expensive thing. You can rent them per hour should you want to. I'm told the cost of that is about $2 million, and it then produces 140 gig file, similar to a zip file, but it's a neural net. It links things together. So it converts it all to tokens, converts it all to mathematics, and then links it all together in a neural net. What it's trying to do is to work out the next word. So the cat sat on the mat would be the next word. 95% sure of that. So it's trying to predict that next word all the time, which is why it hallucinates, why it makes things up. There's a debate whether that's all that we're doing. So it's why it seems like there's a human inside, but we have that philosophy debate, if you like. That's a big debate. Where's the data from? Well, again, bit of a grey area. Nobody really knows. I don't know if you've seen Sora or not. So it's the latest thing from OpenAI, Sora. The premise is you type a prompt in, it then generates a video. So it typed a 1 minute Hollywood quality movie based on this prompt. Go and check the website out. It's unbelievable. It's not open to the public yet. Will be at the end of the year, I believe, but it is absolutely mind-blowing what it can do based on a prompt. This is Moretti. She's CTO for OpenAI. She was CEO that weekend that Sam Altman got fired, and then she stepped back to CTO. Wall Street Journal asked her, click on the link there. Look, the Wall Street Journal asked her a couple of weeks ago, is it trained on YouTube? And she basically did this meme, which is watch it. It's funny. It's so funny. She pulled this funny face, which is this meme with this Muppet here, which made me laugh no end. But is what she sort of said. So they later said it was trained on Shutterstock. I don't know. Looking at it, I think it's running on, synthetic data is one term that people are using. So if you think you've got the internet's a finite resource. That's it. We're adding to it every day. Yeah, but it's a finite resource. Looking at how these things are reflecting and looking at how cars are driving and stuff like that, it looks like the new Unreal Engine, I think. So I think they're generating their own videos and then training the data on the videos that they've generated. I think that's probably what they can't say because it's some sort of proprietary information. But you look at how this ray tracing is going. It's like a computer game, right? Just my opinion. Run your own LLM. So the easiest way to do that is to go to this website and download it, and you'll see. In order to run it, you need a decent computer. The good news is computers get better every release. I think if you had a top of the range M3 MacBook with about 120 gigs of RAM in it, it would run most of these models. Easiest way of doing it is downloading this. The machine's going to cost you $4,000, I admit. If you're running 490 GTX cards, then they're RTX cards, sorry, then they're, what are they, $2,000 each sort of thing. You probably need 4 of them. So yeah, you could do it in a PC, but you'd be looking at about 10 grand, I think, to buy a PC to do it. Or it would run, I've seen it running on YouTube, it would run on a top of the range MacBook. So Macs are incredibly powerful. Go to that website, download it, and then you can select what model you want to run. There's a big old list of models on there. Go to the website and have a look. What's kind of interesting is there's uncensored models on there. So obviously, ChatGPT is run by a company called OpenAI. There's tons of censorship. So if I asked it to draw a picture of Nazi Germany, as the popular one that people do, right? It wouldn't do it because it's offensive. If I asked it to draw a picture of the instructions how to make methamphetamine, it wouldn't do it because that's illegal. So there's restrictions around it. Some of these clever people have worked out to take these restrictions off on these open source models, and they're uncensored. So it might be that you want an uncensored, totally private model for whatever you want to do, but that's there for you to do it. There's obviously versions of Mistral 0.2 and Llama 2 as well that you can download and run on your own thing. It's different models. Different models have a different weight on your computer. You'll see how many parameters you can run and all this sort of thing to do that. But I think you click that button, you select the model, it's relatively straightforward to do. So if you wanted to experiment, you can experiment. And if you wanted to deploy, it's a case of, right, we need to rent servers off Amazon, blah, 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 we go, right? But in order for experimenting, we can do that. So you can now say you have your own secure LLM that runs, does your LQA or your term extraction or whatever, whatever the nonsense these big boys are saying. This is all they're doing, I think. You don't want to do that. There's this thing called the context window. This is what, obviously, I don't do that. I do this, right? Now, context window, think of it like the computer's brain. So it's what we can teach it. When GPT-4 came out, the context window was 32,000 tokens. It takes a word and it breaks it into maths. So the average word would be sort of 1.5 tokens. This was exciting because 32,000 tokens is about 20,000 words. The average thesis that you'd write for your master's degree is about 20,000 words. So it's starting to get master level thesis kind of, that sort of level. So that was interesting when that happened. We can start to teach it. So that's big enough to feed it a slide deck, or feed it a pitch, or feed it an RFP, or feed it whatever you can think of that's going to help you do your sales, right? This then got bigger 6 or 7 weeks ago, 128,000 with Gemini, and then Claude. The top version of Claude is 200,000, a million if you want to pay more. But it's 200,000 tokens for approximately $20 a month. That's 150,000 words. That's 500 pages, which is one of these big fat textbooks. It's the textbook from my operations management course, which is that takes you months to read that properly, right? So it's well thumbed. I've obviously read it, but it's a commitment to read that sort of thing. If we can feed this into a computer, we go, Mr. Computer, and then we can have a conversation with it about that textbook. That's a very quick way for you to learn the key points. It's very exciting. Now, quickly talk about prompt framework. So we've got the data in, we've got to get the data out. If you think these LLMs have at least 10 terabytes of information in there, they're going to have all sorts of information. They're going to have all the books ever published. They're going to have all your competitors' websites. They're going to have price lists. They're going to have all sorts of stuff in there for you to extract. You've got to work out how to get it out again. That's the trick. I use this simple method to start with. I call it RTF because from localization. So the RTF, use RTF files for 25 years, right? So I'm not going to forget RTF. So role, task, format. That's how I remember it. So I'll talk to it. So instead of just saying, write a poem about my dog, I'll say, well, give me in a format. Okay, so let's put that into context for us. Act like we'll come to that. I'll show you how to find that out. Give me a list of benefits you're looking for professional language translation services in bulleted format. I went into Claude and I asked it this question. Can you give me a list of job roles who would most benefit from professional language services in $1 billion international company? Please explain. It then returned this. Blah, 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 here's a list. So C-suite, sales, legal department, human resources. You can read that on your own time. The one I've worked with in the past, so I've sold probably $10-15 million worth of this particular type of localization. So I know a little bit about it. I know enough to spot errors, because that's another tip as well. Don't use it to do stuff that you don't know about, okay? It'll generate text quicker than you can read, but it might be garbage. So you need to have some sort of knowledge. It needs to be a human in the loop to go through that. So compliance and regulatory, yeah, okay, that looks about right to me. I then wrote the prompt. Hey, Claude, act like compliance and regulatory affairs. Give me an in-depth list of benefits looking for professionals in bulleted format. So role, task, format. It then give me this. Now, read that on your own time. That looks like the start of a brief for a landing page. If you go back in time 5 years, I or you would sit with your senior team and you'd develop a new service every few months. Great. Or you'd look for, copy somebody else. But you'd either talk to the customer or you'd talk to the account management team and you'd try and collect all this information together, post-it notes and whiteboards, do a SWOT analysis or something like that. You'd collect all that. Then you send it off to a copywriter or an agency. They would then write the content in. Well, it's doing a lot of this pre-work for you at the start. You need to proof it to make sure it's right. But these parts here, we're starting to get there. I then asked, what else could I ask it? So another thing I wanted to do, you can ask the machine how it wants to be talked to, if you know what I mean. So there's no instruction books, or there's some, but they're difficult to find. But I always ask the computer, or Claude or ChatGPT, how it wants to be talked to. What else could I ask you to help develop a value proposition? It's the essence of the thing that we're selling for this. And how should I ask you? There's that, and there's how it wants to be talked to. There's a list of links at the end of the slide deck. Those who've downloaded it already has probably seen it, but there's 2 prompt guides that are excellent. The Anthropic one's really good. The ChatGPT one's really good. Read them. There's a lot of information there to help you. It's surprisingly quite complicated. What I've learned is the more information or context you can give it, the better. So prompts can be quite long. I've got a long one to show you in a minute. Custom instructions in ChatGPT. So this is now sort of 9 months old, but you can, if it's a paid for version, you can click on this, click on custom instructions, and then add in your own custom instructions. And that tells it how to write back to you. They're roughly speaking, they're mine. I might check if I'm working on a particular project, I'll change these. So change these to suit, but you can start to paint the picture. So it asks you who you are. So if I'm working at uni, I'll be doing, I'm a university lecturer teaching strategic management or whatever. And then you can tell it who you are, you can tell it how you want it to write back to you. That starts to do that. Other uses. If you're pitching for a large customer, you've got like the deal of the year coming up, the deal of the quarter, and you're doing a big pitch, then for God's sake, practice before. You can use AI to practice before you practice, if you know what I mean. So you can feed it 150,000 words if you wanted, and then you can get it to have a think about what you've just fed it, and then you can ask it to ask you questions about what you've just given it. So that can help you and you'll get some random questions, but you want random questions. So if you're practicing for a job interview, you could do a similar sort of thing, but you want the most randomest, silliest, horriblest questions it can think of, so you can practice those and get those right. And then when you talk to the real person, the real customer, it's a lot easier. This is a prompt I'm kind of working on at the moment. I've pasted it in there anyway. You can copy paste it and change it. It's negotiation training. So what it's trying to do, I'm trying to get Claude to act as a negotiation trainer for me as a salesperson. And it's going to pick one of these roles at random. And then I'm going to then try and sell it translation services, and we're going to negotiate a price, right? How good's that? Your sales team can practice, right? Wonderful. You can make your own GPTs. I've made a few of these. Good for SEO, actually. So you can drop your own links in. It can link back to you. There you go. You get some free links from OpenAI. Why not? Why wouldn't you? You click on Explore. You click on Create. It then asks you a series of questions, and you fill in the answers, and you create your own GPT. So if you wanted to create a negotiation robot, one that you negotiate with, you could create it in there. If you wanted to create an RFP assistant or business advisory, Linguist Lens was something that went out onto the internet, downloaded all the language stories from the week, summarized them, ranked them, and then started to rewrite each story, which is the basis of a newsletter or the basis of a blog or whatever, right? So it can actually make you that sort of thing. Now, I used to do that manually. So I used to get Google alerts. I'd then read the thing. I'd then rewrite the thing. I'd then tell the customers the thing, because it's a process we can set it up to work on its own. So I'm going to leave you, we're now nearly at the top of the hour. So I'm going to leave you with this. We're marching supposedly. Now, 2 different thoughts in this. One, you could think that, well, human knowledge is finite and we're about there now. So, 10 terabytes, 100 terabytes doesn't really matter. It's a finite amount of information and that's it. So we've reached the peak. Or the other sort of thinking is, well, we're going to reach this artificial general intelligence. We went past the Turing test without even noticing. You think about it, Alan Turing said, when computers can converse with you, you don't notice the computer. Yeah, he was getting worried about that in the 1940s, 1950s. Well, that sort of came and went, and bizarre that we went past it. I thought there'd be uproar, when that would happen, but it didn't. So that's crazy. But we're marching towards this thing called artificial general intelligence now, defined as when a machine's capable of understanding the world as well as or better than any human. What's scary about this is these things think at the speed of light. We think at the speed of chemicals or whatever's going on in here, right? Some of us are faster than others. This is a website worth looking at. Alan's conservative countdown to AGI. When I did this talk at the seminar we ran in November. It was at 52%. So obviously Alan's moved the dial over to 72%. It's well worth looking at this website. It's a great resource in terms of AI and in terms of what's happening. And this is sort of Ray Kurzweil, human progress through time. When you stood here, you obviously don't know what's coming, but we stood here. It's possible we're on this inflection point of the world's going to change. Who knows? But it's exciting, right? We're going to swim around in it. Saw this on Twitter, so I'm going to share on Reddit this morning, so I'm going to share it with you because you see it all the time. It's an open source LLM, fine-tuned Mistral, uses RAG, knowledge graphs, but not interested. It's AI. Oh, yeah, I'm interested, right? You see that all the time. It really annoys me, but it's there. As a marketeer, I would say, excuse me, if we're going to improve the sizzle, we have to improve the sausage. So it's no good just putting AI on the packaging and assuming that it's going to improve, okay? You can improve, say it's better, you've got to actually make it better and think about where you want to position on here. And we have the entirety of human knowledge at our fingertips, but it's about wisdom. So knowledge is knowing a tomato's a fruit, wisdom's not putting in a fruit salad. I'll leave you with that quote, and I will say it's the top of the hour, nearly 30 seconds to go. So I'll say thank you very much. If you've got a project, let's talk. I'll stay online for as long as you want me to. If I'm not coughing myself to death. And there's a list there of further reading, should you need it, all hyperlinked to papers and all sorts of things like that. You'll see that. Hopefully that was of use. Any questions?
Yes, thank you very much.
There's
That was very
a
interesting.
Q&A tab I didn't look at.
Yes, we still have one more question. I think you answered it, but maybe if you can still go through the bullet points. Carmen Hi from the other side of the pond. What would be the benefits for small LSP to run their own LLM? I know that you've talked a lot, but just summarize it one more time.
So in the future, so I'll make this statement, right? In the future, LLMs will run on these. They now run on laptops. 10 years time or whatever, these things get better every year. So they'll run on these eventually. Wouldn't it be great if, so what an LLM gives me is a different way to interact with that 10 terabytes of data. Yeah, I can Google it. Yeah, I can do my own research. Yeah, I can read Nigel Slack's book. If I can't sleep, I can read the book and learn about operations management. What an LLM gives me is that way to have that conversation. So you saw that when we were developing those value propositions, you have that conversation. You're going to say, yeah, but let's try this. So, we're developing a value proposition for regulatory translation. Yeah, but what if we change this? Can you explain that? Could you just do this? Then you can set up a negotiation practice. You can even then ask it to develop a slideshow for you. Whatever you want to do, you're in that context of that. So it's conversational to do that. So why would you want your own LLM? If we do it in ChatGPT, God knows where the data is going. It's going into Sam Altman's pension, I imagine, right? Same with Google, same with Anthropic to some extent. We don't know where the data is going. If it's running on your laptop and it's your machine and it's your thing, you can feed it your information and nobody knows apart from you what you're working on. So it's secure and private. What lots of the bigger companies are saying is they'd use secure AI. So what does that mean? Well, runs on their private network, supposedly, to do it. So what would the benefit be? You know, you're not spending $20 a month. There's a benefit. It's secure, it's private. You can train the model and you can give it as much information as you want.
Carmen, did Richard answer your question?
Yeah, she said thanks there.
Good.
If not, Carmen, call me. We'll have a conversation.
Yes, well, this is your last chance. If you still have any questions you want to ask Richard, if you don't dare, you can always contact him via email or I don't know, WhatsApp probably. Um, I still think you haven't answered Christina the question, which she added, with the given economic situation we are facing in Germany, I hear clients saying, I don't care where the data goes as long as I save time and cost. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, I had a conversation with on a similar sort of thing. I had a conversation with somebody about food packaging. So I used to do a lot of regulatory work, and they said, and I'm going to swear because they swore. I'm not going to tell you which supermarket it was. A very large UK supermarket, and they said, let's face it, nobody gives a shit about food labeling outside of Western Europe. And I said, well, they're all in the EU, and they will give a shit when someone dies. Now, it's a similar thing with that. Yeah, I think if they're saying to you, we don't care where the data's going, crikey, we used to translate things like, well, things I can't tell you about, but we used to translate things for the army. We used to translate things for NATO and things like that. Now, it was very important where that data went. And it was very important who knows what about what may or may not have happened at some point in history. But yeah, I mean, I think it's about if you've got, say, if you've got customers like that, then they're going to be buying any old crap anyway. So maybe we need to sail off at where the seas are blue and think, well, we've developed this process. Is there anybody else who would actually value us not pasting it in Google Translate or something like that? You know, it's just so. And I think as an opposite to that as well, you can practice. Remember 15 years ago when Google Translate came out and your customers were saying, well, why should I pay you because Google Translate's free, right? So what you will have done, sat down with your sales team and practice the answer to that question, I hope. We've got a similar thing now where it's like they're probably saying something to you like, well, why should I pay you for that? Because ChatGPT is free. So the answer, you can look at these larger companies, those larger companies will be asked that every day. Their answer is, well, we have our own secure LLM that runs on our own encrypted network, blah, 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 some other word salad, here we go. So they've answered that question. So you can answer that question as well, because you need to practice the answer to that and do it 1,000 times. When you're actually asked it in the field, then you've had that conversation 1,000 times. You can answer it really quickly and talk about that straight away. If people don't care where the data's going, God, blimey, maybe we'll have a conversation privately about that, Christina. But yeah, I mean, who are these people? I care about where my data goes, don't you? I mean, I guess they'll
I
think,
think
you know, there's that price, and so you have to think about what's their perception of that. You know, if Cliff Bone was here, we say, well, what's the perception of that customer? They just want to be, you know, down and left, cheap as chips, no value. They want to fly Ryanair, so you need to develop that, you know, that sort of thing for them. And if you want to be there as a company, you know, you need to make that decision, right? But some people do very well being cheap and, you know,
yeah,
no
I
value.
always say, they don't care where the data go until something hasn't happened, like say so. Elena asked, will you share the presentation? But I saw that you shared the link to download
Yeah,
your
let me.
slides. Can you do that once again?
Yes, I'll send them
Yeah,
into.
while you are
I'll
searching for the
also
link, I
paste them.
can also share
If that
one.
doesn't work, let me know.
Yeah,
Uh,
let me just chime in. And tomorrow you will be receiving a link to the video as well.
Oh my
awesome.
God.
Thank you, John. Thank you, our tech guy. Yeah, I also give the comparison to the companies sometimes when they say, oh, you know, we can Google Translate everything, or, you know, we can translate with AI. But if would you sign the contract that the contract's value is $2 million, for example, without proofreading it by humans? It's like, you know, it's easy as 2 cents. And then they start thinking, because, you know, people will always, not always, but they also speak about, you know, that AI is not 100% reliable. And I think that we all know that. Maybe some smaller manufacturers, they just, you know, they're looking into the site where to save the cost, and they don't give a shit. I'm sorry for my friends. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Richard.
Well,
That
no,
was
just on
really,
that point, so
yes.
I can spend hours sometimes working on the prompt. And I could almost, I met myself last week, because it would have been, for working on a blog post or a piece of research, but probably quicker just to have done it the old fashioned way of Googling it and reading it with your brain. But so sometimes it's not any quicker, and it's not as easy as just running it through this magical machine. You know, you've got to learn. These machines change every day, and you've got to learn how to use them and think. I think the thing I want you to just take away from it, everybody, is just have a go with it. And it can benefit much other ways. Yes, there's the translation issue that we've got to work out, but there's the rest of the business that you can work on.
So just to summarize everything, the link worked, so the slides
Yes,
can be downloaded.
lovely.
Awesome. Bullet number 2, don't let anyone bully you,
Yeah,
neither you're small or big company. Try prompts, learn how to write prompts. Stay with Elia. If you are not a member of Elia, just, you know, sign up as a member, talk to John about benefits. And hopefully to see you next time. And thanks again, Richard, very much for being with us, being back with Elia. I
my
hope
pleasure.
to see you somewhere at some next webinars or presentations on site somewhere. Thank you all for being with us. Until next.
Beauty. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Good luck, everybody.